In this particular lecture, we are going to cover the aspects around fundamental rights. Basically, which parts of constitution and articles are covered by fundamental rights, how many freedoms have been identified by constitution um, under fundamental rights, and what are the important articles related to this, that is part 3 or fundamental rights related articles. Then how constitution has ensured protection of these freedoms. Let us go one by one. First thing first, how are fundamental rights covered? I mean, which part, which articles? So the fundamental rights are covered under part 3 basically, and the articles pertaining to article 35 12 to 35, they are covered under fundamental rights. Okay, and this is something really important, and the first thing that you're supposed to know about constitution, to be frank. And in that, what is most important is article 12, which is the definition of state. So it is very important question that's usually asked: which article covers the definition of state? What all is covered under state? Is judiciary part of state? Is you know PSUs part of states? All the definitions come over here. Okay, and constitution has granted us 6 freedoms: right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights. And you can remember this by remembering the first letters of these important freedoms, which are like equality, freedom, and against exploitation, EFE, and religion, culture, and constitutional remedies, RCC. EFE, RCC. RCC is pretty simple to remember. And then you have EFE, equality, freedom against exploitation, right? And then religion, culture, and constitutional remedies, RCC. That's how you should be remembering these basic freedoms. At the onset of constitution back in 1950, there were 7 fundamental rights, but right to property has been moved out of fundamental rights and it's now a legal right that you should be knowing about. Let us go one by one in these rights. So, the first, right to equality, it has been covered under these 5 articles, 14 to 18. And the most important ones among that is these two: equality before law and prohibition of discrimination on grounds of race, religion, caste, sex, or place of birth. So, it's really important that you remember the titles of this 14th and 15th articles. And you have to remember that there are these 5 articles that are covered under right to equality. Let us go next. Right to freedom. Right to freedom has been covered under 19, 20, 21, and 22. And 21A, that is right to education, is an important recent addition on account of a constitutional amendment through which right to education has been recently added. As far as I remember, it's amendment number 86, if I'm not wrong. So, and in this also, 19th is the most important article whose title you are supposed to remember: protection of certain rights regarding freedom of speech, etc. Okay, so these 5 articles are covered under right to freedom. Right against exploitation is covered by these 2 articles. Both are important: prohibition of trafficking of human beings and forced labor, and then prohibition of employment of children in factories who are under 14 years of age. So these two are important articles that you should be remembering about. Coming to right to freedom of religion, these 4 articles cover that. And again, the first article, if you remember, that's sufficient, I would say: freedom of conscience and profession, practice, and propagation of religion. 29th and 30, they cover the right of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. One thing that you should know about is that Constitution recognizes linguistic and religious minorities. These are the two types of minorities that Constitution recognizes. Again, it's important to remember the 29th one, most important, right to constitutional remedies. This is the Article 32. Okay, and to about this article, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has said that this is heart and soul of Constitution. This is really important. You should remember this particular point and which article has been called as heart and soul of Constitution. It's Article 32. Why? Because it ensures that if any fundamental right has been violated, there is a remedy for enforcement of that right. Okay. So there are, how does that remedy happen? There are five writs under this particular constitutional article, right? So, what are those writs? Prohibition, habeas corpus, certiorari, mandamus, and quo warranto. So let us go a bit deeper into these. Prohibition is nothing but Supreme Court prohibiting lower courts from crossing their judicial circle, right? Habeas corpus is nothing but it literally means produce the body. So it kind of is a way through which Supreme Courts ask the authorities to present a person who has been detained so as to ensure whether this person's detention is valid under law or not. Third is certiorari, under which um, you know the Supreme Court moves a particular case under it, a case which is under some other court. It moves that particular case under it for a review. Mandamus is asking a public authority to fulfill its duty, and quo warranto is literally means under what authority. And under this writ, the Supreme Court, checks the authority of a particular uh, person or a particular government entity when they are performing a particular act. So, is that valid? Are they in power to do that particular thing? Yes or no? And these are the five writs through which citizens can approach directly the Supreme Court when their fundamental rights are violated. And because of this, these protections that the Constitution has provided about these fundamental rights, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has called it as a heart and soul of Constitution. And coming to the exam point of view, how do you remember it? So you can remember it by this particular sentence: Polly has certified mannequins. Prohibition, habeas corpus, certiorari, mandamus, quo warranto. You can also remember it by CPM headquarters, CPM HQ, certiorari, prohibition, mandamus, habeas corpus, and quo warranto. I hope you liked this particular session. We are a group of alumni of IIMs and NITs, and we have initiated Wisdomitra with an aim that students don't learn by rote but by understanding the concepts end to end. And if you want to be part of inaugural batches, do drop a message for inquiries. Thank you.